Stone arch bridges were built to last forever. Carved from rock and raised by human hands. They were meant to endure floods, storms, wars, and time itself. Across Maryland, these bridges still stretch over quiet rivers, dark creeks, and forested ravines. By day, they look peaceful, even beautiful. By night, they feel very different. Footsteps echo where no one walks. Cold air rises from the water below. Shadows gather beneath the arches, moving against the flow of the river. Some travelers hear voices calling from under the stone. Some see figures standing at the center of the bridge, staring silently into the dark. Some cross once and swear they will never cross again. These bridges were built on tragedy. Workers fell. Carriages crashed. Bodies were swept away by floodwaters and never recovered. Stone remembers everything. Tonight, we journey through Maryland to uncover the most haunted stone arch bridges, places where history is trapped in stone and the past still waits in the shadows. Hello, my dear friend. I hope you are comfortable and safe, because what we are about to explore stands quietly along roads and rivers that many people pass every day without a second thought. Maryland is one of the oldest states in America. Its stone bridges date back to colonial times, early railroads, and the expansion of trade and travel. These bridges were built before modern safety. Accidents were common. Deaths were often recorded only as brief notes, if at all. Some bridges replaced older crossings where lives were already lost. Some were built near battle routes, burial grounds, or forgotten settlements. Some simply became places where tragedy repeated itself again and again. Over time, stories began to spread. Figures seen beneath arches at night. Phantom wagons crossing long after traffic stopped. Cold spots that appear suddenly at the center of the bridge. Before we begin our journey, let me ask you this. If you were driving alone at night and saw someone standing silently at the middle of an old stone bridge, would you stop to help, or would you keep driving and never look back? Take a slow breath. And let us cross into the haunted stone arch bridges of Maryland. The Antietam Creek Stone Bridge stands quietly over slow-moving water, its weathered arches shaped by time and history. By day, it appears peaceful, a simple structure of stone connecting two gentle banks. The creek flows calmly beneath it, reflecting sky and trees in soft ripples. To an unknowing visitor, it might seem like any other old bridge resting in the countryside. But this land remembers. The ground surrounding the bridge carries a deep and lingering weight. Long ago, the nearby fields witnessed intense human struggle, moments of fear and resolve pressed into the soil itself. Though the sounds of conflict faded generations ago, many believe the memory never truly left. It settled into the stone, the water, and the air above the creek. As daylight fades, the bridge begins to feel different. Shadows stretch across the stone surface, and the air grows noticeably heavier. The quiet deepens, not with peace, but with expectation. Visitors often slow their steps without realizing why, sensing that this is not a place meant to be rushed. At night, the bridge reveals its most unsettling side. Footsteps are often heard moving across the stone, slow and deliberate, as if a group is crossing together. The sound carries clearly in the stillness, echoing softly from one end of the bridge to the other. Yet when people look, the path is always empty. The stone lies undisturbed, cold beneath the night air. These footsteps are not hurried. They follow a steady rhythm, measured and consistent. Those who hear them describe the sound as organized, purposeful. When the sound stops, it does so abruptly, leaving behind a silence that feels too complete. Beneath the bridge, shadows gather in ways that defy expectation. The arches frame pockets of darkness that seem deeper than the surrounding night. These shadows do not remain still. They shift and stretch along the stone, moving against the natural direction of moonlight and water. At times, they appear to gather together, then separate, flowing like smoke beneath the bridge. Visitors standing along the banks often notice these movements from the corner of their eyes. When they focus directly on the shadows, the shapes seem to dissolve, blending back into darkness. The effect leaves a lingering sense of unease, as though something retreated just before being seen. Even on calm nights, when the air is still and the creek barely moves, distant cries are sometimes heard. The sound is faint, carried on the lightest breeze, rising and falling in waves. Instead, it seems to drift across the landscape, touching the bridge briefly before fading away. These cries are not sharp or sudden. They are stretched and distant, softened by time and space. Some describe them as expressions of pain. Others hear something closer to calling. No matter the interpretation, the sound leaves listeners unsettled, aware that what they heard does not belong to the present moment. The bridge itself feels burdened by memory. Standing upon it can feel physically draining, as though the weight of the past presses downward through the stone. Visitors often report a tightness in the chest or a heaviness in their limbs that fades only after leaving the area. The sensation is subtle but persistent. The creek below reflects more than the night sky. At certain angles, the water appears darker beneath the arches, as if absorbing light. Ripples distort reflections into shifting patterns that feel almost intentional. Watching the water too long can feel disorienting, as though depth and distance lose meaning. Locals speak of the bridge with quiet respect. They acknowledge its beauty, but also its gravity. It is not a place for celebration or noise after dark. Many believe that the bridge stands as a silent witness, holding together not just stone and mortar, but moments of profound human emotion. Those who linger often feel watched, not from above or behind, but from all directions at once. The sensation does not feel threatening. It feels observant, as though the land itself is aware of those who stand upon it. The longer one remains, the stronger the atmosphere becomes. Sounds feel amplified. Footsteps feel louder. Breathing becomes more noticeable. The bridge seems to narrow, drawing attention inward rather than outward. Many choose to leave quietly, without speaking, guided by instinct rather than reason. As visitors step away, the weight begins to lift. The air feels lighter. The creek resumes its gentle flow. Ordinary sounds return. The bridge appears unchanged, still and silent under the night sky. Yet the memory of being there remains vivid. The sound of unseen footsteps. The movement of shadows beneath the arches. The cries carried by an invisible wind. These experiences linger long after the bridge disappears from view. By morning, sunlight softens the stone and brightens the water. Birds return. The bridge looks peaceful once more, a historic structure resting in the open air. But for those who have stood there at night, the Antietam Creek Stone Bridge is something more. It is a place where memory feels alive, where the past presses gently but firmly against the present. The bridge does not speak loudly. It does not demand attention. To most, it is simply a landmark, a remnant of another era. It simply stands, heavy with remembrance, allowing the echoes of footsteps, shadows, and distant cries to surface when the world grows quiet enough to listen. From a distance, the structure feels timeless, as though it has always belonged to the landscape. The bridge does not dominate the ravine so much as watch over it, standing steady while the world below shifts with seasons and weather. Approaching the bridge on foot, the scale becomes unmistakable. Stone walls curve high overhead, and the ground drops away beneath the arch. The air feels cooler here, shaped by shade and moving currents that flow through the ravine. Even on warm days, there is a chill that lingers, subtle but persistent. Those who walk beneath the bridge often describe an unexpected physical response. A sudden dizziness may arrive without warning, causing them to slow their steps or pause entirely. The sensation feels disorienting, as if balance itself has briefly slipped. Along with it comes a wave of fear that has no clear source. The fear is not tied to the height or the structure's appearance. The fear is not tied to the height or the structure's appearance. Others say it feels like standing in a place where something important once happened, though they cannot say what. Though they cannot say what. The ravine amplifies sound in strange ways. Footsteps echo longer than expected, returning from directions that make no sense. The wind moves through stone and trees, carrying whispers that seem to rise directly from the walls. Listeners strain to understand the words, but nothing resolves into clarity. The whispers never form language, yet they feel intentional. They drift close, then retreat, brushing the edge of awareness before fading into the natural sounds of the ravine. When people move closer to the stone walls, the whispers often grow quieter, as though avoiding attention. When they step back into the open space beneath the bridge, the voices return, surrounding rather than approaching. The experience leaves many unsettled, unsure whether the sound came from outside or from within their own thoughts. During the day, the bridge feels solemn but approachable. Light filters down through the arch, illuminating patches of moss and stone. The ravine below feels ancient, shaped slowly over time. Visitors often pause here, caught between awe and unease, sensing that the place holds more than its appearance suggests. As evening approaches, the atmosphere changes. Shadows deepen along the stone walls, and the ravine darkens quickly. The bridge above becomes a silhouette, its upper edge blending into the fading sky. Sounds grow sharper in the quiet, and the whispers seem easier to hear. At night, reports grow more unsettling. Figures are said to appear along the upper edge of the bridge, standing still against the darkness. These shapes are seen only briefly, outlined by distant lights or moon glow. They do not move or gesture. They simply watch. When attention is held too long, the figures vanish, dissolving into shadow as if they were never there. No sound accompanies their presence. There are no footsteps, no voices calling down. Only the sensation of being observed from above, silent and patient. The figures never approach. They remain where they are, distant and unreachable. Some visitors report feeling the fear intensify when the figures appear. The dizziness returns, stronger than before, urging them to leave the area quickly. Others feel rooted in place, caught between curiosity and instinct. The bridge itself seems unchanged by these moments. It stands firm and unmoving, stone absorbing sound and light alike. The structure feels indifferent, as though it has witnessed countless nights like this and expects many more. Those who linger describe a strange contrast. The bridge feels protective from a distance, solid and dependable. Beneath it, the ravine feels alive, responsive, aware. It is as though two different atmospheres exist in the same space, overlapping without touching. The history of the bridge adds to its presence. Built to endure, it has carried generations across the ravine. Watching quietly as people passed overhead, unaware of what lingered below. Time has layered memory into stone, deepening the sense that the bridge remembers more than it reveals. Late at night, when the world grows quiet, the whispers may return one last time. Softer. Slower. Almost thoughtful. They echo briefly along the walls, then disappear entirely. Leaving the ravine in complete silence. Those who leave often do so without speaking, carrying the experience with them. The fear fades gradually with distance, replaced by confusion and reflection. Looking back, the bridge appears calm and ordinary, its massive arch steady against the dark. The memory lingers. The dizziness that came without reason. The voices that could not be understood. The figures watching silently from above. These impressions resist simple explanation. Cabin John Bridge continues to stretch across the ravine, towering and massive, unchanged by those who pass beneath it. By day, it offers beauty and quiet strength. By night, it becomes something else entirely. For those who walk beneath its arch and feel the sudden weight of fear, the bridge leaves a lasting mark. Not as a place of danger, but as a reminder that some structures carry more than stone and mortar. They carry presence. And when the ravine fills with whispers and shadows gather along the upper edge, Cabin John Bridge stands watch, silent and unmoved, holding its secrets high above and deep within the stone walls below. Thomas Viaduct stretches across the river valley with quiet confidence, its massive stone arches rising from the landscape like something carved from the earth itself. Built in an era when railroads reshaped distance and time, the bridge has endured longer than most structures of its kind. By day, it appears solid and dignified, a monument to engineering and patience, carrying the weight of history without effort. Trains still pass nearby, but the viaduct feels separate from the present. Its stones hold warmth from the sun and shadows from passing clouds. The arches frame the land beneath, guiding wind and sound through open space. Standing near it during daylight feels calm, almost reassuring, as if the bridge has settled into its role as a permanent observer. As night arrives, the atmosphere begins to change. The surrounding area grows quiet, and the viaduct becomes a silhouette against the dark sky. Lights from distant roads fade, leaving only faint reflections on stone. The air cools quickly near the arches, even in summer, creating pockets of cold that drift without warning. Those who walk beneath the bridge often pause, surprised by the sudden chill. Late at night, strange movements are sometimes seen along the tracks. Small points of light glide slowly across the bridge, following the path where trains once ran. The lights do not flash or flicker like modern signals. They move steadily, as if mounted on something unseen. There is no sound of an approaching train. No vibration in the ground. Just light, traveling where steel wheels once rolled. The lights vanish as quietly as they appear. Observers who watch closely often lose track of time, unsure how long they have been standing still. When the movement ends, darkness returns fully, leaving behind an uneasy sense of interruption, as if something passed through the present without fully belonging to it. Some nights bring sound instead of light. From areas where rails are long gone, people report hearing the screech of metal wheels. The noise is sharp and unmistakable, echoing briefly before fading into silence. It does not match the rhythm of modern trains. It sounds older, strained, as though steel is resisting movement rather than gliding smoothly. The sound never approaches. It appears suddenly, then disappears, leaving no vibration or follow-up noise. Those who hear it often look toward the source, expecting to see motion or light, but find only empty track beds and darkened stone. Cold air continues to surround the arches. Even during warm months, the temperature drops noticeably beneath the bridge. The cold feels concentrated, clinging to the stone and flowing outward in slow waves. It does not behave like ordinary night air. It arrives without wind and lingers longer than expected, brushing against skin with quiet persistence. Brushing against skin with quiet persistence. The cold feels concentrated, clinging to the stone and flowing outward in slow waves. Thomas Viaduct has carried generations across the valley. When it was built, rail travel was new and uncertain, filled with both promise and risk. Engines roared across the arches, hauling people and goods through unfamiliar territory. The bridge bore the strain of speed, weight, and constant use, day after day, year after year. Over time, traffic patterns changed. New routes formed. Old rails were removed or left to fade. Yet the viaduct remained, holding its place even as the purpose around it shifted. Some believe that repetition left a lasting impression, movement so ingrained that it continues without physical cause. The lights seen at night may be echoes of routine. Trains once crossed at predictable intervals, their lamps marking progress through darkness. The bridge learned that rhythm, absorbed it, and now releases fragments when conditions align. The stone does not distinguish between past and present. It simply remembers. The metal sounds carry a similar weight. They do not feel accidental or random. They feel purposeful, as if the bridge is completing a motion that no longer exists. The screech suggests effort, strain, and momentum held back, like an action interrupted but never resolved. Those who spend time near the viaduct at night often feel watched. Not by a figure or presence, but by the structure itself. The arches frame the darkness in ways that feel intentional, guiding the eye along lines meant for movement. Even standing still, people report a sense of passing through rather than remaining in place. The experience is not aggressive. There is no sense of danger or threat. The lights do not rush. The sounds do not grow louder. Everything happens briefly, then recedes, leaving behind quiet and cool air. The viaduct does not demand attention. It simply allows these moments to surface. Locals speak of nights when the bridge feels especially alive. Fog gathers low around the arches, and sound travels unpredictably through the valley. Footsteps echo longer than they should. Voices carry farther, then vanish. In these conditions, the lights and sounds are reported more frequently, as if the environment helps release what the stone holds. By morning, the bridge returns to stillness. Sunlight warms the stone, and the cold air retreats into shadow. The arches frame the river and landscape once more, offering no sign of what occurred during the night. The tracks lie quiet. The valley resumes its ordinary rhythm. Yet those who witnessed the lights or heard the metal screeching do not forget. The memory lingers, resurfacing when passing trains sound different than expected, or when night air turns suddenly cold. The viaduct becomes more than a structure. It becomes a place where time feels layered rather than linear. Thomas Viaduct continues to stand, unchanged in form and steady in presence. One of the oldest railroad bridges in the nation, it carries not only stone and history, but motion remembered without movement. Late at night, when the world grows quiet enough to notice, lights may glide along empty tracks, and metal may cry out where rails no longer lie. Cold air will gather beneath the arches, even in summer. And for a moment, the past will move again, crossing the bridge without sound or weight, leaving only silence behind. Union Arch Bridge lies hidden within thick forest, its stone structure blending into the land as though it has always belonged there. Reaching it requires leaving paved roads behind and following narrow paths where trees press close and sunlight filters through in broken patterns. The deeper the forest grows, the quieter the world becomes, until even distant sounds feel absorbed by leaves and earth. The bridge itself appears suddenly, stretching across a shallow channel carved long ago. Its arches are strong and weathered, their surfaces marked by time and moss. By day, the place feels secluded and calm, a forgotten crossing rarely disturbed. Yet even in daylight, many sense that the bridge is not entirely at rest. The air feels cool and still, shadows gather where sunlight cannot reach. The ground is damp, though no water flows strongly below. Leaves and debris rest undisturbed, suggesting long stretches without movement. As evening approaches, the forest changes character. Sounds sharpen, then fade, leaving behind a deeper quiet. Birds retreat, insects slow, and the bridge seems to settle into isolation. Travelers walking beneath the arches sometimes hear splashing sounds coming from the channel below. The noise is clear and sudden, as though something has broken the surface of water. Yet when they look down, there is nothing there. The channel remains still, reflecting only stone and shadow. The splashing may repeat once or twice, always without a visible source. It does not match the movement of animals or falling debris. The sound carries weight, heavy enough to feel intentional. Then it stops, leaving behind silence that feels more pronounced than before. Those who linger beneath the bridge often feel compelled to listen closely, waiting for the sound to return. In the absence of movement, even breathing feels loud. The stillness presses inward, making every moment stretch longer than expected. Above, the bridge deck remains empty, yet footsteps are sometimes heard echoing overhead. The sound travels across stone in a steady rhythm, heel to toe, moving from one end of the bridge to the other. The echoes are unmistakable, carrying the distinct pattern of someone walking with purpose. Travelers glance upward, expecting to see a figure crossing. The bridge remains empty. No shadows move along the edges. No vibration follows. The footsteps continue for several seconds, then fade as though the walker stepped beyond reach. These sounds do not align with passing vehicles or nearby activity. The forest surrounding Union Arch Bridge is too remote for regular traffic. The echoes arrive without warning and leave without explanation. Walking across the bridge after dark brings its own unease. The forest below disappears into darkness. And the arches feel like open mouths beneath the stone. Each step taken by a traveler echoes loudly. Yet the sound never seems to belong solely to them. It feels layered, as though another set of steps might follow just behind. Stopping mid-crossing often intensifies this sensation. The silence closes in quickly, thick and heavy. In that quiet, many report a strong feeling of being watched. The awareness does not come from a single point, but from the space itself. This feeling does not fade with movement. Walking faster or slower makes little difference. The presence remains constant, calm but alert. As though something unseen is observing without intention to reveal itself. Some travelers describe the sensation as being counted or measured, as though their passage across the bridge is being acknowledged. Others feel as though the bridge itself is aware of their presence, responding not with sound or motion, but with attention. The forest around the bridge contributes to the effect. The lack of open space removes any sense of escape. Once on the bridge, travelers feel fully exposed, suspended between arches and shadows. Those who spend more time at Union Arch Bridge often report heightened awareness of their surroundings. Small sounds feel amplified. A shift in air pressure feels significant. Even the weight of silence seems deliberate, as though the forest has chosen to quiet itself. Locals familiar with the bridge speak of it carefully. Stories are shared quietly, often without embellishment. Many acknowledge the strange sounds and sensations but avoid assigning them meaning. Some refuse to cross the bridge after dark, choosing longer routes instead. Skeptics suggest natural explanations. Sound can travel unpredictably through stone and forest. Echoes may bounce in unexpected ways beneath arches. Water trapped beneath debris can move without being seen. The mind, isolated and alert, can heighten perception. Travelers with no knowledge of the bridge's reputation describe the same splashing, the same footsteps, the same sense of being watched. The details align too closely to ignore. The bridge feels like a threshold rather than a passage. Crossing it does not simply move someone from one side to the other. It feels like entering a space that notices those who pass through, holding their presence briefly before releasing it. Leaving the area brings gradual relief. The forest opens slightly. Sounds return. The weight of attention lifts, though not all at once. Looking back at the bridge, it appears still and silent, blending once more into its surroundings. Yet the memory lingers. The splashing with no water. The footsteps with no walker. The constant awareness that never faded until distance intervened. These impressions stay with travelers, resurfacing unexpectedly long after the forest has been left behind. Union Arch Bridge remains hidden, rarely visited, and seemingly unchanged. Stone arches stand firm against time, holding their quiet vigil. For those who cross it, the experience feels personal and unsettling. Shaped by sound, silence, and the undeniable sense that the bridge is not merely a structure, but a place that watches and remembers. In the end, Union Arch Bridge does not demand belief or explanation. It offers only an experience. One defined by isolation, echoes, and a presence that does not announce itself, yet never truly leaves. Guilford Avenue Bridge stretches across the roadway with a quiet permanence, its stone and steel shaped by decades of traffic and time. By day, it appears ordinary, a functional crossing that blends into the rhythm of the city. Cars pass beneath and over it without pause, and pedestrians barely glance at its weathered surface. Nothing about the bridge suggests the weight of history it carries. Over the years, this bridge has seen countless accidents. Some were minor, others more serious. Each leaving behind a moment of fear and disruption before traffic resumed. Life moved on. As evening approaches, Guilford Avenue Bridge begins to feel different. The light fades unevenly beneath the arch, and shadows gather where the roadway dips. Streetlights hum softly, casting pale reflections on the pavement. Drivers slow slightly without realizing why, sensing a subtle change in the atmosphere as they approach the crossing. After dark, the bridge takes on a heavier presence. The air beneath it cools rapidly, often colder than the surrounding streets. Cold mist rises suddenly from below the arch, rolling across the road in thin waves. It appears without warning, drifting low and close to the ground, then vanishing just as quickly as it formed. Drivers passing through the mist sometimes report a strange stillness. Sound dulls. Headlights feel dimmer. The world narrows to the stretch of road directly ahead. In these moments, the bridge feels isolated, cut off from the rest of the city. It is during these conditions that the most unsettling reports emerge. Some drivers claim to see a figure step into the road directly in front of their vehicle. The shape appears human, solid and upright, close enough to trigger an instinctive reaction. Brakes are slammed. Horns sound. Steering wheels jerk sharply. Then, in an instant, the figure vanishes. There is no impact. No sound of contact. No sign that anyone was ever there. Those who experience this often pull over immediately, hearts racing, hands shaking. They step out of their vehicles to look for someone who might have been injured. The road is empty. Other cars pass without incident, unaware of what just occurred. The figure is never described in detail. Some say it looks like a person in dark clothing. Others recall only the outline, the sudden movement into the headlights. No face is ever seen. No expression remembered. The appearance is brief, lasting only a second, yet the impression remains vivid. Cold mist often follows these sightings. It rises thicker than before, curling around the bridge supports and spreading across the roadway. The temperature drops noticeably, even on mild nights. Breath becomes visible. The air feels damp and heavy, pressing close to the skin. Pedestrians who pass beneath the bridge after dark report similar sensations. Footsteps echo differently under the arch, sounding louder and closer than expected. The mist forms around their legs, and the space feels enclosed, as though the bridge is drawing inward. Many quicken their pace, unwilling to linger. Some locals refuse to cross the bridge after sunset. They choose longer routes, detours that add time but offer peace of mind. When asked why, they often struggle to explain. They speak of discomfort, of a feeling that the bridge does not want them there at night. The reputation of Guilford Avenue Bridge has spread quietly, passed along through personal stories rather than headlines. Drivers share experiences with friends and family, often hesitantly, unsure how they will be received. The figure always appears suddenly. The mist always arrives without warning. The fear feels immediate and intense, then fades slowly, leaving confusion behind. No physical evidence is ever found. No cameras capture the moment clearly. The bridge offers no answers. Some believe the sightings are tied to the Bridge's history. The accidents that occurred here did not all end cleanly. Moments of panic, confusion, and loss may have left an imprint on the space. Over time, those moments seem to resurface, replayed in fragments that intrude briefly into the present. Others suggest that the bridge itself creates unusual conditions. Temperature changes, lighting angles, and mist may combine to play tricks on perception. Yet even those who propose logical explanations admit that the experiences feel deeply personal, targeted rather than random. What unsettles many is the sense of timing. The figure often appears when traffic is light, when the road is quiet and attention sharpens. The mist rises at moments of stillness, not chaos. The bridge seems to choose when to reveal its strange behavior. Late at night, when the city grows quiet, the bridge feels especially isolated. Streetlights cast long shadows across the pavement. The arch frames darkness beneath it, and the air feels thick with anticipation. Drivers approach cautiously, gripping the wheel a little tighter. Those who pass without incident still feel relief once they are clear. A tension they did not realize they were carrying eases suddenly. The bridge recedes in the rearview mirror, and the road ahead feels lighter. By morning, Guilford Avenue Bridge returns to its daytime role. Traffic flows normally. The roadway looks ordinary and safe. Yet for those who have seen the figure step into the road, the memory never fades completely. They recall the sudden movement, the instinctive reaction, the impossible disappearance. They remember the cold air and the rising mist. Guilford Avenue Bridge stands where it always has, carrying vehicles and pedestrians across without comment. It does not warn those who approach. It does not reveal its history openly. It simply waits. It simply waits. It simply waits. Night falls and the air cools, the bridge seems to remember. Mist rises beneath the arch. And for a brief moment, a figure may step forward. Shadows deepen. Shadows deepen. Shadows deepen. And for a brief moment, a figure may step forward, only to vanish, leaving drivers shaken and silent. Leaving drivers shaken and silent, and reminding the city why some crossings are best avoided after dark. And reminding the city why some crossings are best avoided after dark. Carroll Creek Stone Bridge rests quietly over slow-moving water, its weathered stone warmed by sunlight during the day. In daylight hours, the bridge feels calm and ordinary. The creek flows gently beneath it, reflecting blue sky and passing clouds. Birds move freely along the banks, and footsteps crossing the stone feel grounded and familiar. To most visitors, it appears to be a peaceful landmark, a place meant for brief pauses and quiet observation. As evening approaches, the atmosphere begins to change. The light softens, and shadows stretch across the stone surface. The creek darkens, absorbing the colors of the sky. Sounds carry farther now. A single footstep echoes longer than expected. The calm remains, but it feels thinner, as if something underneath it is beginning to stir. When night fully settles, the ordinary sounds of the day fade away. The bridge no longer feels like a simple crossing. It feels like a boundary. Visitors who linger after dark often hear whispering rising from beneath the stone arches. The sound is low and close, as if spoken just out of sight. It does not come from a single point. Instead, it seems to drift along the underside of the bridge, carried by the movement of water and shadow. The whispers never form clear words, but they feel deliberate, as though something is trying to communicate without being understood. Those who hear the whispers often lean over the railing, peering into the darkness below. The creek flows steadily, revealing nothing unusual. The stone arches remain empty. Yet the whispering continues for several moments, then fades abruptly, leaving behind an uneasy stillness. The water beneath the bridge behaves strangely at night. Reflections shimmer across the surface, distorted by slow currents. At certain angles, shapes appear within those reflections. Figures seem to stand where there is only empty space. Their outlines are vague but undeniably human in form, stretched and softened by the water's movement. When visitors look directly at the creek, the figures vanish. The water reflects only darkness and faint light from above. Yet when they look away, the shapes seem to return briefly, just at the edge of vision. The experience leaves many questioning their own perception, unsure whether the water is playing tricks or revealing something hidden. The reflections do not linger. They appear for seconds at a time, then dissolve as the water shifts. No two sightings are exactly the same. Some see still figures. Others notice slow movement, as if the reflections are walking or drifting just beneath the surface. After the whispers and reflections fade, the silence becomes overwhelming. It is not the natural quiet of nighttime. Feels wrong, heavy, and pressing. Breathing becomes louder in the absence of other noise. Feels deliberate, as if something has withdrawn and taken sound with it. The bridge seems to hold the quiet tightly, refusing to release it. Standing in this silence, many report a strong urge to leave. The sensation does not feel like fear, but like an instinctive warning. Bodies tense. Muscles tighten. Thoughts focus on movement, on crossing the bridge and stepping away. Those who remain a few moments longer often feel watched. Not from above or behind, but from below. The space beneath the bridge feels occupied, even though nothing can be seen. The stone arches seem deeper at night, their shadows thicker than darkness alone should allow. The history of the bridge is often mentioned when locals speak about these experiences. Built long ago, the bridge has witnessed countless crossings. People passed over it during moments of joy, grief, urgency, and loss. Over time, the weight of those moments may have settled into the stone and water. Flowing water carries memory, reshaping the land while holding on to what it passes. The whispers and reflections may be echoes of voices and images that never fully moved on, resurfacing only when the world grows quiet enough to notice. Those who cross the bridge at night often do so quickly. Footsteps sound louder against the stone, echoing sharply before disappearing into darkness. Once away from the bridge, ordinary sounds slowly return. Insects resume their calls. Wind moves through nearby trees. The oppressive silence breaks. Looking back, the bridge appears unchanged. It stands quietly over the creek, solid and unmoving. From a distance, it looks peaceful again, as though nothing unusual ever occurred. By morning, Carroll Creek Stone Bridge returns fully to its daytime calm. Sunlight warms the stone. Reflections show only sky and leaves. The water flows as it always has. To daytime visitors, there is no sign of whispering or figures, no trace of the wrong silence that arrives after dark. Yet those who have stood there at night remember the difference. They remember the sound beneath the stone, the shapes in the water that vanished when watched, and the silence that felt heavier than noise. Carroll Creek Stone Bridge remains a place of contrast. By day, it offers calm and familiarity. By night, it becomes something else entirely. It does not announce its presence with force or spectacle. It reveals itself quietly, through sound, reflection, and absence. It asks nothing of those who cross, yet it leaves an impression on those who stay too long after sunset. A reminder that some places change when the light fades, and that silence itself can carry meaning, waiting patiently for someone to notice. Jericho-covered stone bridge rests quietly across a narrow stretch of water, its structure shaped by both time and intention. The stone beneath the wooden covering remains exposed, cool and uneven, carrying the marks of centuries of passage. By day, the bridge feels calm and historic, a place where light filters softly through gaps in the structure and water moves gently below. Stepping inside, the temperature drops slightly. The air feels heavier, touched by damp stone and old wood. Sounds behave differently here. Footsteps echo longer than expected, each step returning from the walls with a hollow response. Even during daylight, the interior feels dim, as though the bridge prefers shadow to light. Visitors often remark on the sense of transition the moment they enter. The outside world seems to pause, replaced by stillness and quiet movement. The river beneath can be heard flowing steadily, but its sound feels distant, muted by the thick stone walls. The bridge seems to absorb noise, holding it briefly before letting it fade. As evening approaches, the bridge grows darker. The wooden enclosure blocks much of the remaining light, leaving only thin slivers along the edges. The stone floor becomes harder to see, and movement slows naturally. It is during these hours that the bridge begins to feel less empty. Footsteps are the most commonly reported sound. Visitors describe hearing slow, deliberate steps moving inside the bridge. The sound does not rush. It does not hesitate. It simply continues, as though someone is walking at an unhurried pace from one end to the other. Those who hear the footsteps often stop walking, listening carefully. The sound continues even when they remain still. It does not approach or retreat. It stays just out of reach, echoing softly against the stone and wood. When visitors resume walking, their own steps overlap with the sound, briefly blending together. There is no visible source. Looking ahead reveals an empty passage, stretching into darkness. Turning around shows the same. The sound eventually fades on its own, leaving behind a silence that feels deliberate rather than natural. The doors at either end of the bridge add to the unease. Built to protect travelers from weather, they now move without warning. Visitors describe hearing a low creak as one door slowly opens by itself. Hinges shifting with careful restraint. The movement is never sudden. It feels intentional, as though guided. Watching a door move without touch creates a quiet tension. People wait for it to stop, unsure whether to intervene. When the door finally comes to rest, the bridge feels altered, as though something has changed within the space. Moments later, the door may close again, returning the bridge to its previous state. These movements often occur when no wind is present. The air remains still. The river below flows quietly. There is no visible reason for the doors to respond. Yet they do, opening and closing as if following routines remembered rather than forgotten. The darkness inside the bridge deepens after sunset. Shadows fill the corners, and the exposed stone floor becomes uneven beneath cautious steps. It is in this darkness that some visitors report the most unsettling sensation of all. The feeling of hands brushing past them as they walk. A touch along the arm. A passing sensation near the shoulder. The touch never grips or pulls. It feels more like someone moving close in a narrow space, careful not to collide. The touch vanishes as quickly as it appears, leaving visitors frozen in place. Those who experience this often check their surroundings immediately. There is no one else inside. The passage remains empty, silent. The air feels unchanged. Yet the memory of the touch lingers vividly, impossible to dismiss as imagination alone. Some describe the sensation as curious rather than threatening. Others feel a rush of fear, compelled to leave the bridge quickly. The reaction varies, but the experience itself feels consistent. Always brief. Always gentle. Always unexplained. The structure of Jericho-covered stone bridge contributes to this atmosphere. The enclosed space narrows perception, while the exposed stone floor grounds each step in physical reality. Sound, touch, and movement feel amplified here, stripped of distraction. The bridge has witnessed countless crossings over the years. Wagons, horses, travelers on foot. Each passage left subtle impressions, worn into stone and wood. Some believe the bridge holds on to these moments, replaying fragments of movement and presence long after the travelers themselves are gone. Late at night, when the surrounding area falls completely quiet, the bridge feels suspended between past and present. The river continues its steady flow, unseen in the darkness. Inside, every sound feels closer, every movement more significant. The sense of not being alone grows, even when logic insists otherwise. The bridge does not feel hostile, but it does not feel empty either. There are nights when nothing happens at all. No footsteps. No moving doors. No touch. These nights can feel just as unsettling, as though the bridge is waiting, holding its presence in reserve. By morning, the bridge changes once more. Sunlight returns through the openings, warming the stone and revealing familiar textures. The doors behave normally. The interior feels quiet and still. The experiences of the night seem distant, almost unreal. Yet those who heard the footsteps or felt the brush of unseen hands remember clearly. The sensation does not fade easily. It becomes part of how the bridge is remembered. It does not announce itself. It does not seek attention. It simply exists, holding echoes of movement, the creak of doors, and the faint memory of passing hands within its walls. And for those who walk through its darkness and feel a presence moving just beside them, the bridge leaves a lasting impression. A reminder that some places do not forget those who pass through. They remember, patiently, waiting for the next quiet crossing. This bridge spans water that has claimed many lives. Over the years, sudden floods, strong currents, and unseen drops have turned calm moments into irreversible ones. The river has never been cruel by intention, yet it has taken without warning, leaving behind stories whispered rather than spoken aloud. The bridge remained, watching silently as the water passed beneath again and again. During daylight, the valley feels alive. Birds move through the trees, and the sound of flowing water blends naturally with wind and distant footsteps. The stone underfoot feels cool and steady, grounding and reliable. Light fades quickly in the valley, shadows settling into the curves of the land. The bridge grows darker, its outlines softer against the sky. The river, once soothing, begins to sound different. Its movement becomes louder, more insistent, as if the water itself is trying to be heard. At night, the river grows unnaturally loud. The sound rises beyond what the flow should produce, echoing sharply beneath the stone arch. It does not match the rhythm of normal current. It surges and recedes unpredictably, filling the valley with a presence that feels heavy and focused. Those who listen closely often feel unsettled, unable to explain why the sound feels wrong. Voices are sometimes heard from beneath the bridge. They rise from the darkness under the arch, carried on the sound of water. The cries are distant and strained, blending with the rush of the river, until it becomes difficult to tell where water ends and voice begins. The sound is brief, appearing suddenly before dissolving back into the flow. Those who hear the voices often freeze. The instinct to move disappears, replaced by a deep stillness. The cries do not call specific names or words. They carry emotion rather than language. An expression of fear and loss that lingers even after the sound fades. When people look beneath the bridge, they see only moving water and shadow. The stone arch holds the sound, amplifying it briefly before releasing it back into silence. The bridge itself does not move or respond. It remains fixed in place, as it has always been, bearing witness without intervention. Those who linger too long often feel an overwhelming sadness. The emotion settles slowly at first, then deepens without clear cause. It presses into the chest, heavy and difficult to ignore. The feeling does not feel personal, yet it feels intimate, as though borrowed from the place itself. Time behaves strangely during these moments. Minutes stretch longer than expected. Thoughts slow and turn inward. Some describe memories surfacing that do not belong to them. Images and sensations that feel misplaced yet vivid. Others feel a sudden urge to sit or lean against the stone, as if movement requires more effort than it should. The sadness is not sharp or panicked. It is deep and consuming, layered with resignation and longing. Those affected often describe it as grief without focus, sorrow without a single source. The longer they remain near the bridge, the stronger the emotion becomes. The Patapsco Valley Stone Bridge has seen countless crossings. People passed over it during moments of routine and urgency alike, unaware that the river below would sometimes claim more than it gave. Over time, the bridge absorbed these moments, holding them in stone and shadow rather than letting them fade. Some believe the voices are echoes of those final moments. Not clear memories, but emotional impressions released when the environment grows quiet enough to hear them. The river carries sound, and the arch gathers it, creating a space where the past can surface briefly before sinking back into the flow. Others believe the sadness is a response rather than a cause. The bridge does not create emotion. It reveals it. Standing above water marked by loss invites reflection, and the mind fills silence with weight. Yet this explanation does not fully account for how consistently the feeling appears, or how strongly it grips those who linger. The bridge does not feel hostile. There is no sense of being pushed or threatened. The sadness does not turn into fear. The voices do not shout or pursue. Everything remains restrained, unfolding quietly and without urgency. Visitors who leave the bridge often feel relief with distance. As steps carry them away, the weight lifts gradually. Breathing becomes easier. The memory of the experience remains vivid, returning unexpectedly in quiet moments. By morning, the bridge looks unchanged. Sunlight touches the stone, and the river resumes its gentle appearance. There is no sign of voices or sorrow, no visible mark of what occurred during the night. To those passing by, it is simply a bridge in a valley. But for those who stood there after dark, the place feels different forever. The sound of water will never feel entirely the same. The arch will always seem deeper, heavier. The memory of voices crying out beneath the stone lingers long after the valley returns to calm. Patapsco Valley Stone Bridge continues to span the river, steady and unmoving. It carries footsteps and silence with equal patience. At night, when the world grows quiet and the river grows loud, the bridge becomes something more than stone and structure. Voices may rise briefly from beneath the arch. Sadness may settle into the air. And for those who linger too long, the weight of what the river has taken will be felt, heavy and undeniable, before fading back into the flowing dark. Monocacy Aqueduct stretches across the river with quiet strength, its stone arches rising from the landscape like remnants of another age. Built to carry canals long abandoned, the structure remains solid and unmoving, even as its original purpose has faded into history. The surrounding land feels open yet strangely hushed, as though the aqueduct has drawn silence around itself. During the day, the aqueduct appears peaceful. Sunlight warms the stone, revealing textures shaped by time and weather. The canal path above lies dry and empty, its edges softened by grass and encroaching earth. Visitors walk slowly here, aware that this place once carried constant motion, water flowing steadily across the span, boats passing overhead with quiet purpose. The stillness feels natural at first. Birds circle above. Wind moves through nearby trees. Yet beneath this calm surface, many sense something unsettled. The aqueduct feels like a place waiting, holding on to a rhythm it no longer performs. As evening approaches, the atmosphere begins to shift. Light fades unevenly across the arches, and shadows gather along the stone walls. The surrounding area grows quieter. And the absence of modern noise makes the structure feel isolated from the present. It is during these hours that visitors often report hearing the sound of water flowing. The noise begins softly, a low rush that seems to travel along the length of the aqueduct. Those who hear it stop walking, listening carefully. The canal above is dry. The river below flows quietly, far from where the sound seems to originate. The sound continues for several moments, then fades without warning. It leaves behind a deeper silence, one that feels heavier for having been interrupted. Some visitors report hearing the water again minutes later, always without any visible source. Listening closely does not reveal the origin. The sound seems embedded in the stone itself, as though the aqueduct remembers the water it once carried and releases that memory in fragments. Along the walls, shadows begin to move. They slide slowly across the stone, stretching and shrinking in ways that do not match passing clouds or shifting light. The movement feels deliberate, controlled, as though something unseen is passing just beyond sight. Turning toward the shadows causes them to vanish instantly, leaving only blank stone behind. These shadows often appear near the arches, where light is weakest and the stone holds the most depth. They do not form clear shapes, yet their motion suggests direction and intent. Walking along the canal path after dark can feel unsettling. The ground is uneven, and the absence of water makes the space feel exposed. The path stretches forward with no clear destination, bordered by stone walls that seem taller at night. It is here that some visitors report seeing figures. The shapes appear ahead on the path, upright and human in form. They walk slowly, following the curve of the canal as though traveling with purpose. Their movement is smooth and unhurried, matching the pace of someone familiar with the route. Those who see the figures often assume they are other visitors. Calling out brings no response. As the distance closes, the figures begin to fade, their outlines thinning until they disappear entirely, leaving the path empty once more. These sightings are brief, lasting only seconds, yet they leave a strong impression. The figures never acknowledge those who see them. They do not turn or react. They simply continue forward until they are gone. Some believe these appearances are echoes of the past, impressions left by the countless people who once worked and traveled along the canal. The aqueduct was a place of labor and routine, carrying water day and night. Over time, the repetition of movement may have left something behind. Others suggest natural explanations. Light plays tricks on the eye. Shadows stretch in unexpected ways. The mind fills in shapes where detail is limited. These explanations make sense, yet they do not account for how consistently the experiences are described. The flowing water where none exists. The moving shadows. The figures that fade away before they can be approached. Standing beneath the arches, many feel an unexpected sense of presence. The air feels cooler here, and sound behaves differently, echoing longer than expected. Time seems to slow in this place. Moments stretch, and the boundary between past and present feels thin. The aqueduct does not feel abandoned so much as paused, holding on to fragments of activity waiting for the right conditions to surface. Locals familiar with Monocacy Aqueduct speak of it with quiet respect. They acknowledge its history and the strange experiences without exaggeration. Some avoid visiting after dark, choosing to remember the place as it appears during daylight. Those who linger into the night often describe a reluctance to leave, paired with an equal desire to move away. The experience feels personal, as though the aqueduct responds differently to each visitor while revealing the same underlying patterns. When the sound of water fades and the shadows settle, the aqueduct returns to stillness. The canal path remains dry. The stone walls stand silent. Yet the impression remains that something has passed through, leaving only memory behind. Leaving the area brings gradual relief. The presence fades with distance. Sounds return to normal. Looking back, the aqueduct appears unchanged, a solid structure against the darkening sky. Yet the experience lingers. The memory of flowing water without water. The shadows that moved without cause. The figures that walked and vanished. These moments stay with visitors long after they have gone. Monocacy Aqueduct stands as a bridge between eras, a structure built for movement now suspended in stillness. It carries more than stone and history. It carries echoes, released softly to those who walk its path and listen closely. In the quiet, the aqueduct does not demand belief. It simply reveals itself, offering glimpses of what once was and what may still linger. For those who experience it, Monocacy Aqueduct is not just a relic of the past, but a place where memory flows on, unseen yet unmistakable. Big Gunpowder Falls Stone Bridge lies hidden deep within thick woodland, far from busy roads and everyday noise. Trees crowd close around the narrow path that leads toward it, their branches forming a canopy that dims the light even at midday. The bridge reveals itself slowly, stone by stone, as if reluctant to be found. Its surface is worn smooth by time, its edges softened by moss and shadow, giving the impression of something long forgotten. During the day, the bridge feels quiet but uneasy. The surrounding forest absorbs sound, muting footsteps and distant wildlife alike. The river below moves steadily, dark and reflective, slipping beneath the arch without disturbance. Visitors often pause before stepping onto the bridge, sensing a change in the air that feels heavier and colder than the woods behind them. As soon as 1 foot touches the stone, the temperature shifts. Cold air pours upward from beneath the arch, rising in a steady flow. Even in warm weather, the chill is unmistakable. It feels as though the bridge is breathing out something stored deep within the stone, releasing it only when someone crosses. The cold does not behave like a normal draft. It does not swirl or fade quickly. Instead, it holds its place, lingering along the span as if bound to the structure itself. Visitors often glance down toward the river, expecting to see fog or rushing water that might explain the chill. What they find instead is calm movement, unchanged and silent. Midway across the bridge, many report the sound of footsteps behind them. The sound follows steadily, never rushing, never falling behind. Instinctively, people turn to look. The bridge is empty. No one stands behind them. The far end of the span remains clear, framed by trees and shadow. Yet when they face forward again and take another step, the sound returns, directly behind, perfectly timed. The sensation creates a tightening in the chest, a growing awareness that something unseen is sharing the crossing. Some try to stop walking, testing whether the footsteps will continue. When they pause, the sound pauses as well. When they move again, it resumes. The mimicry feels deliberate, as if whatever follows is choosing to remain just out of sight. The forest around the bridge seems to withdraw during these moments. Birds fall silent. Wind fades to nothing. The world narrows to stone beneath the feet, cold air rising from below, and the steady echo of movement where no one stands. Those who hurry toward the far side often describe a surge of relief when they step off the stone and onto solid ground again. The cold lifts abruptly. The footsteps vanish. Sound returns to the forest as if nothing unusual occurred. Looking back, the bridge appears unchanged, quiet and inert, offering no sign of what just happened. Others choose to turn back instead, retracing their steps. In these cases, the footsteps follow them in reverse, maintaining the same distance until they leave the bridge entirely. The moment their feet touch the path beyond the stone, the presence withdraws. The experiences are remarkably consistent. Different visitors, unaware of the bridge's reputation, describe the same sequence of sensations. The cold air. The footsteps. The absence of anyone behind them. The sudden relief once the crossing ends. The bridge has stood for generations, spanning the river through changing eras. Long before modern paths guided visitors here, the crossing served travelers who depended on it for passage. Over time, countless footsteps pressed into the stone, each carrying purpose, urgency, or uncertainty. The bridge absorbed them all. Some believe the structure has retained these movements, replaying them in fragments when conditions are right. The cold air may be the breath of the river below, shaped by the stone into something unnatural. The footsteps may be echoes of crossings that never fully ended, impressions left behind by those who passed through with unfinished journeys. What makes Big Gunpowder Falls Stone Bridge especially unsettling is the restraint of its behavior. There are no sudden shocks, no dramatic displays. Everything unfolds quietly, with patience. The bridge does not frighten through force, but through awareness. It lets visitors feel accompanied without ever revealing by whom. As evening approaches, the bridge grows more oppressive. Shadows deepen along the arch, and the cold becomes sharper. Those who cross near sunset often report the strongest sensations, as if the fading light gives the bridge greater influence. The footsteps sound closer. The air feels heavier. The forest seems farther away. Few choose to cross after dark. Those who do often speak of regret. Without daylight, the bridge feels longer, the arch deeper. The cold pours upward more intensely, wrapping around the body. Footsteps sound louder, closer, nearly overlapping with one's own. Still, no one is ever seen. Investigations offer no explanations. No animals are found beneath the bridge. No airflow patterns account for the steady cold. No structural features explain the precise mimicry of sound. The bridge remains silent when studied, offering its mystery only to those who cross it. By morning, the place feels calmer. Sunlight filters through the trees. The river glints softly beneath the arch. The stone bridge looks peaceful, even beautiful. It becomes easy to doubt the stories, to assume imagination filled the silence. The sensations are too specific, too controlled to dismiss easily. Big Gunpowder Falls Stone Bridge remains where it has always been, hidden and forgotten by many, remembered intensely by a few. When someone steps onto its stone span, the bridge responds. Cold air rises. And though no one is ever seen behind them, the feeling of company remains. Until the crossing is complete, leaving visitors with the unsettling certainty that the bridge is never truly empty. Savage Mill Stone Bridge spans quiet water with a solid, weathered presence, its stones darkened by age and use. By day, it looks like a relic of industry, a sturdy crossing that once carried the weight of labor and movement. The surrounding area feels calm now, softened by time and nature, but the bridge still holds the shape of its original purpose. It was once part of an industrial route, a place where iron, tools, and people passed through in constant motion. Long ago, this bridge knew noise. Machinery rattled nearby. The air carried the sharp scent of metal and steam. Work here was demanding and unforgiving. And not everyone who labored along this route returned home. Accidents happened quickly, without warning. And the bridge became a silent witness to moments that ended too soon. As daylight fades, the atmosphere around Savage Mill Stone Bridge begins to change. The water beneath darkens, reflecting less of the sky and more of the stone arches above. Shadows stretch across the surface, and the bridge no longer feels like a simple crossing. The bridge feels like a threshold between what remains visible and what does not. At night, the most commonly reported sound is metal clanging against stone. The noise echoes sharply, like tools striking iron or chains hitting a hard surface. It arrives suddenly, clear and unmistakable, then fades into the darkness. There is no visible source. No loose debris. No machinery operating nearby. The sound carries the weight of work, repeating the rhythms of labor long after the work itself has ended. The clanging does not follow a steady pattern. Sometimes it comes in single strikes. Other times it repeats in short bursts, as though someone is adjusting equipment or signaling to unseen coworkers. The echo travels along the stone, bouncing beneath the bridge before dissolving into silence. Visitors who hear it often freeze, listening closely, expecting the sound to return. When it does not, the quiet that follows feels uneasy rather than calm. The bridge seems to hold on to that silence, as if waiting for the next sound to break it. Along with the clanging, figures are sometimes seen at the edges of vision. These appearances are brief and indistinct, more impression than detail. A shape stands where there should be empty space. A movement passes just out of sight. When people turn to look directly, there is nothing there. The figures never approach fully. They remain peripheral, appearing only in moments of distraction. This makes them difficult to dismiss. The mind registers movement before reason can intervene. By the time awareness catches up, the space is empty again. Those who linger near the bridge feel a growing sense of unease. The air feels heavier. Sounds feel sharper. Even the water beneath the bridge seems to move differently. Its surface is broken by subtle ripples that do not match the flow. The stone itself feels cold to the touch. Even on warm nights. Standing near the bridge for extended periods can feel draining. As though energy is being quietly pulled away. Visitors report fatigue, slowed thoughts, and an urge to step back. To create distance between themselves and the structure. Local history offers context for these experiences. The bridge once supported intense industrial activity, with workers navigating dangerous conditions daily. The rhythm of metal on stone was constant, as familiar as breathing. When accidents occurred, work often resumed quickly, leaving little space for acknowledgement or rest. Some believe the sounds heard at night are echoes of that routine, replaying in fragments. The metal clanging reflects tasks interrupted but never completed. The fleeting figures mirror workers moving through familiar paths, caught between motion and stillness. The bridge does not feel angry. It feels active. The atmosphere carries a sense of repetition rather than chaos. Sounds and movements feel purposeful, as if something is continuing a routine long after its original context has vanished. The darkness beneath them feels layered, as though depth extends beyond what the eye can measure. Visitors walking across the bridge at night often feel watched, not from above or behind, but from the sides. The stone arches seem to contain more than shadow. The darkness beneath them feels layered, as though depth extends beyond what the eye can measure. Despite the unease, many find themselves drawn to the bridge. There is a gravity to it, a pull created by history and presence. People stand quietly, listening for the next sound, watching the corners of their vision, aware that the place is not entirely at rest. The echo sharpens, cutting through the night air. Then it stops, leaving behind the sound of water and wind, both suddenly louder in comparison. Stepping away from the bridge brings gradual relief. The air lightens. Ordinary sounds return. The sense of pressure eases. Looking back, the bridge appears unchanged. Its stone solid and still against the night. By morning, Savage Mill Stone Bridge resumes its quiet appearance. Sunlight softens the edges of the stone. The water reflects trees and sky. There is no trace of metal clanging or moving figures. To a casual observer, it is simply an old bridge with a story rooted in industry. But those who have stood there after dark know something lingers. They remember the sound of metal striking stone with no source. The movement that vanished when seen. The feeling that the bridge was not empty, only quiet. Savage Mill Stone Bridge remains a reminder of labor and loss. Of work that demanded everything and sometimes took more than it gave. The stone still holds those moments, releasing them in echoes and shadows when the world grows quiet enough to listen. Deer Creek Stone Bridge arches quietly over slow, dark water, its weathered stones worn smooth by time and passing seasons. By day, the bridge appears calm and unassuming, framed by trees that lean inward as if drawn to the water below. The creek moves steadily beneath the arch, reflecting muted light and carrying leaves downstream without urgency. At first glance, the bridge feels peaceful, almost ordinary. Stepping onto the stone surface brings a subtle change. The air cools slightly, and the sound of the surrounding wood softens. The bridge feels solid and grounded, as though it has been part of the landscape for far longer than anyone can remember. Even in daylight, there is a sense of quiet attention, a feeling that the place is aware of movement. As evening approaches, the water beneath the bridge darkens. Reflections grow deeper and more opaque, turning the creek into a smooth mirror. Broken only by slow ripples. The stone arch casts long shadows across the surface, and the space beneath the bridge becomes a pocket of dimness. That seems separate from the world around it. After sunset, the atmosphere changes noticeably. Sounds carry farther, and the woods grow still. It is during these hours that visitors report hearing humming sounds rising from the bridge and the water below. The sound is low and steady, without melody or words. It resembles a voice, yet it does not speak. It simply continues, calm and measured. Those who hear the humming often pause, unsure whether it is coming from the water, the stone, or the air itself. The sound seems to move gently, shifting in volume without changing tone. It never grows loud. It never fades completely. It exists at the edge of hearing, encouraging focus without offering clarity. Listening closely does not reveal its source. Walking along the bridge changes nothing. The humming remains present, neither approaching nor retreating. When attention drifts, the sound becomes easier to miss. When focus returns, it is there again, unchanged. Along with the humming come strange movements in the water. Visitors looking down into the creek describe reflections rippling without obvious cause. The surface shifts as if something has passed beneath, disturbing the mirrored image of stone and sky. These ripples do not resemble fish or drifting debris. The movement exists just below sight, suggested only by the changing reflections. Watching these ripples creates a quiet tension, as though the creek is responding to observation. Some visitors report feeling drawn to the edge, leaning over the stone railing to watch the water longer than intended. Time seems to stretch in these moments. The humming continues, the reflections shift. And the outside world feels distant. The bridge becomes the center of attention, narrowing awareness to stone, sound, and shadow. The sense that the bridge feels alive is difficult to explain. It is not a belief, but a sensation. The stone seems to hold warmth despite the cool air. The structure feels responsive, subtly reacting to presence. Standing on the bridge late at night, many describe the feeling of being acknowledged. This sensation does not come with fear at first. Instead, it brings alertness. Movements become careful. Breathing slows. Every sound feels significant. The bridge does not feel threatening, but it does not feel passive either. It feels engaged. The humming sometimes changes subtly, rising or falling in intensity without altering its steady nature. These shifts often coincide with new ripples in the water below. Those who remain on the bridge for extended periods report emotional responses that arrive without clear cause. A sense of calm mixed with unease. Curiosity paired with caution. The feeling that leaving would be difficult, not because of fear, but because of attachment. The history of the bridge adds to its presence. Built to connect two sides of the creek, it has carried countless crossings. Travelers paused here, rested, and listened to the water long before modern noise filled the world. Each crossing left subtle impressions, worn into stone and memory. At night, when the world grows quiet, those impressions feel closer to the surface. The humming may be the echo of countless voices blended into one continuous sound. The rippling reflections may be the creek remembering movement, repeating it softly. There are moments when the humming stops suddenly. The silence that follows feels deep and complete, as though the bridge is holding its breath. In these moments, the water often stills as well, becoming perfectly smooth. The pause lasts only seconds, but it feels longer. When the sound returns, it does so gently, resuming its steady presence as if nothing changed. Visitors often describe a sense of relief mixed with confusion. The bridge feels active again, the connection restored. Not everyone who visits Deer Creek Stone Bridge experiences these phenomena. Some cross without incident, noticing only the beauty of the setting. Others hear the humming once and never again. A few encounter the full combination of sound, movement, and sensation in a single visit. Those who do often leave quietly. The walk away from the bridge feels longer than expected. The humming fades gradually with distance, replaced by ordinary night sounds. The creek returns to a simple flow, and the bridge becomes just another silhouette in the dark. Looking back, the structure appears unchanged. Solid. Still. Yet the memory of standing there lingers. The feeling that the bridge was aware. The sound that had no source. The water that moved without revealing why. Deer Creek Stone Bridge continues to span the slow, dark water as it always has. By day, it offers calm and history. By night, it becomes something more subtle and alive. It does not demand attention. It does not reveal its secrets easily. It simply waits, stone and water working together. Humming softly beneath the surface of ordinary time. For those who stand upon it late at night and feel the bridge respond. A lasting impression. A reminder that some places are more than structures. They are participants, quietly alive, listening as much as they are seen. Tuckahoe Stone Bridge lies low across quiet water. Its worn stone stretching through marshland that never fully rests. By day, reeds sway gently and birds move carefully through the grasses. The bridge appears ordinary, even peaceful, a simple crossing shaped by age and weather. Fog often hangs nearby, thin and pale, softening the edges of the land. Softening the edges of the land. The stillness feels natural at first. Water slides slowly beneath the arch, dark and reflective. The marsh absorbs sound, muting footsteps and distant movement. Visitors often pause here longer than planned, drawn by the calm and the way the bridge seems to belong to the landscape rather than interrupt it. As the sun lowers, the marsh begins to change. Fog thickens and spreads outward from the water, rolling low and steady. The world narrows as visibility fades, leaving only the nearest shapes clearly defined. Sounds feel farther away, as if pushed back by the mist. After sunset, shadows begin to rise from the water. They form slowly, stretching upward through the fog in vague, shifting outlines. The shapes do not reflect trees or reeds. They appear where the water is deepest and linger just long enough to be noticed. Some observers describe them as standing figures, others as moving columns of darkness that bend and thin as the fog shifts. The shadows never remain solid. They rise, change shape, and sink back into the water without ripples or disturbance. When watched directly, they soften and fade, leaving behind only mist and the quiet movement of marsh grass. Yet the feeling that something emerged remains long after the shape is gone. Voices sometimes follow. Soft whispers drift through the fog, carried just above the surface of the water. The sound is faint but clear enough to recognize as speech. Names are spoken quietly, one at a time, lingering briefly before dissolving into the mist. The voices do not call loudly. They do not demand response. They simply speak, then disappear. Those who hear the whispers often feel a sudden chill. The air cools noticeably, brushing against skin with quiet persistence. Breath feels heavier, and the fog seems closer, pressing inward from all directions. Many who hear their name spoken turn instinctively. They look into the fog, searching for a source, expecting to see another person standing nearby. Instead, the mist shifts gently, revealing nothing but water and shadow. The absence feels intentional, as though whatever spoke has already moved away. The marsh absorbs reaction quickly. Footsteps sound dull and distant. Even voices spoken aloud feel swallowed by the fog. People often describe difficulty judging distance, unsure how far the water extends or where the bridge ends. Familiar landmarks vanish, replaced by uniform gray and dark reflection. The bridge no longer feels like a clear crossing, but a boundary between spaces. Fear follows quietly. It does not arrive suddenly or sharply. Instead, it builds as a steady awareness that something is wrong. The shadows, the whispers, the fog all combine into an atmosphere that feels watchful. The Tuckahoe Stone Bridge has stood here through countless seasons. Floods have risen and fallen. Marshland has shifted and reclaimed space. The bridge remained, carrying footsteps across water that never stays still. Over time, the land shaped the structure as much as the structure shaped the land. Water moves slowly here, holding sound and reflection longer than expected. Fog blurs boundaries, allowing impressions to surface without form. The whispers may be fragments of memory, released when light fades and silence grows deep enough to notice. Others believe the experience comes from the landscape itself. Marshland can disorient even in daylight. Fog alters depth and distance. Sound travels unpredictably across water. Yet this explanation does not fully account for the voices or the shadows that rise and fall without physical cause. Those who linger too long often feel compelled to leave. The fear sharpens into urgency, pushing movement despite confusion. People step away from the bridge without clear reason, guided more by instinct than thought. As distance grows, the fog thins slightly, and the whispers fade. Relief follows gradually. Breathing steadies. Awareness widens. The sense of being watched loosens its hold. Only then do many realize how tense their bodies had become while standing near the bridge. By morning, Tuckahoe Stone Bridge appears unchanged. Fog lifts, revealing calm water and still marsh grass. The shadows are gone. The whispers remain unspoken. To someone passing by, the bridge offers nothing unusual, only stone and water shaped by time. Yet those who visited after sunset carry the memory with them. The sound of whispered names returns unexpectedly. Fog on other roads feels thicker than before. Reflections in dark water hold attention longer than they should. The experience lingers, difficult to explain but impossible to forget. Locals speak of the bridge with quiet caution. Stories are shared softly, often dismissed with a shrug, yet rarely forgotten. Many avoid the area after dark, choosing longer routes rather than crossing through the marsh at night. Tuckahoe Stone Bridge does not announce itself. It does not display sudden movement or loud disturbance. Its presence is subtle, woven into fog and water, sound and silence. The shadows rise gently. The voices whisper softly. Fear grows without force. As evening falls and mist returns, the bridge waits. Fog gathers low across the marshland. Water darkens. The air cools. Shadows may rise again from beneath the surface, and names may be spoken quietly through the mist. Those who remain too long may leave feeling disoriented and afraid, unsure of what they heard or saw. And when the fog finally lifts, the bridge will stand as it always has, silent and unchanged. Holding secrets that reveal themselves only when the light fades and the marsh begins to breathe. Wye River Stone Bridge stretches across the water with quiet authority, its weathered blocks resting where current and history meet. The river below moves steadily, its surface reflecting the sky by day and swallowing light by night. From a distance, the bridge looks calm and enduring, a simple crossing shaped by time and use. Up close, the atmosphere feels heavier, as though the stone remembers more than it reveals. The area around the bridge is open and deceptively peaceful. Trees line the banks, and the sound of flowing water fills the air. During daylight, visitors pause to watch the river pass beneath the arches, unaware of the stories tied to this place. The bridge has seen countless crossings, yet it is also known for tragic drownings that have left a quiet mark on the landscape. The bridge begins to feel exposed, suspended between sky and water. The stone underfoot cools rapidly, holding on to the chill as daylight fades. The air changes abruptly, rushing past in sharp waves that seem to rise from the river below. They arrive suddenly, cut across the span, and vanish just as quickly, leaving the air still again. Those who experience the gusts often stop mid-step, startled by the contrast. The chill feels focused, almost intentional, brushing past faces and hands before retreating. On calm nights, when the surrounding air remains steady, the sudden cold stands out even more. The sudden cold stands out even more. The feeling does not linger long enough to cause alarm, yet it leaves behind a heightened awareness of the space. Figures appearing near the railing are another widely shared experience. Approaching these figures brings no reaction. They do not turn or shift position. As distance closes, their outlines soften, thinning until they vanish without sound. The space they occupied is left empty, the railing cold beneath the hand, the river flowing steadily as if nothing occurred. These sightings are brief and unpredictable. Some see a single figure. Others glimpse more than one, spaced apart along the railing. The figures never interact with one another or with those who see them. They simply stand, then disappear. Walking across the bridge at night can intensify the sensation of being observed. The awareness does not come from a single direction. The river below plays a role in the experience. Its sound deepens after dark, the steady movement creating a low, continuous presence. The water reflects fragments of light, breaking them apart into shifting patterns that draw the eye downward. Looking into the current for too long can feel disorienting, as if depth and distance are difficult to judge. Those familiar with the bridge speak of the drownings with quiet restraint. Details are rarely shared openly, yet the knowledge remains, passed along through cautionary advice and brief mentions. The river has claimed lives here, and the bridge has stood witness, unchanged and silent. Some believe the figures seen near the railing are connected to these losses, impressions left behind by moments of fear and struggle. Others believe the bridge itself holds the memory, releasing it as sensation rather than image. The cold gusts, the sudden presence, the vanishing forms all feel tied to the water below. Skeptics offer practical explanations. Temperature differences can create sudden drafts. Light can distort shape and movement at night. The mind can fill gaps when attention is heightened by isolation and history. These explanations are reasonable, yet they do not fully account for the consistency of reports. Visitors with no prior knowledge of the bridge describe the same experiences. The cold air that arrives without warning. The figures that appear and vanish. The persistent sense of being watched that does not fade until leaving the span. Stopping at the railing often brings a strange mix of calm and unease. The river feels close and distant at the same time. The sound of water seems louder, as though the bridge amplifies it. Standing still, some feel the urge to step back, as if the space demands respect. Moving away from the bridge brings gradual relief. The cold gusts do not follow. The figures do not reappear. The sense of attention lifts slowly, fading with each step taken toward solid ground. Looking back, the bridge appears unchanged, its stone surface pale under moonlight, its arches steady above the river. There is no sign of movement, no hint of the moments just experienced. The quiet returns, complete and convincing. Yet the memory remains vivid. The sudden cold that swept across the span. The figures that stood near the railing, then vanished without a sound. The awareness that lingered until distance intervened. Why River Stone Bridge continues to serve as a crossing, solid and enduring. It does not announce its history or its presence. It simply stands, holding the space between banks and the stories carried by the water below. For those who cross it after dark, the experience feels personal and unsettling. The bridge does not threaten or warn. The bridge does not threaten or warn. It observes, releases brief impressions, and then returns to stillness. In that quiet exchange, the past feels close enough to be noticed, carried on cold air and reflected in the Rivera's steady flow. Carried on cold air and reflected in the Rivera's steady flow. Why River Stone Bridge remains a place where stone, water, and memory meet. Catoctin Creek Stone Bridge rests quietly near the remains of old settlements. Where history has thinned into memory and the land has slowly reclaimed what once belonged to people. The road leading to the bridge is narrow and calm, bordered by trees that have grown tall and close over generations. The creek below moves steadily, its surface reflecting leaves, sky, and shadow in slow motion. At first glance, the bridge appears peaceful, almost inviting, a simple stone crossing shaped by time and careful hands. During the day, the area feels gentle and rural. Sunlight filters through branches and settles on the stonework, revealing worn edges and smooth surfaces polished by countless crossings. The bridge feels solid beneath foot, dependable and quiet. Birds move freely through the air, and the sound of water below provides a steady rhythm. Nothing about the scene suggests unease, yet many visitors describe a subtle tension they cannot quite explain. The feeling becomes clearer as footsteps echo across the stone. The bridge feels larger than it appears, as if the space stretches slightly once someone steps onto it. The air feels dense, not heavy, but full. Even in silence, the space seems occupied, as though voices have only just faded. As evening approaches, the atmosphere shifts. Light dims gradually, and shadows collect along the curved stone walls. The surrounding fields and trees grow quieter, and the bridge begins to feel isolated from the rest of the landscape. Laughter drifts softly through the air, distant and light, echoing gently from no clear direction. It does not sound mocking or threatening. Instead, it feels casual, familiar, like the laughter of people gathered together in comfort. The sound rises briefly, then fades, only to return moments later. Alongside the laughter comes the low murmur of conversation. Voices overlap quietly, rising and falling as if several people are speaking at once. No words can be clearly understood. The sound resembles the background hum of a crowd rather than a focused exchange. It feels social, communal, and strangely warm. Visitors often stop walking when they hear it, instinctively listening. The bridge, the creek, and the surrounding land remain empty. No figures appear on either end. No movement can be seen among the trees or near the water. The voices continue briefly, then fall silent. When people move again, the sounds often return, as though triggered by presence. Some attempt to follow the noise, stepping toward one end of the bridge or the other. The laughter shifts subtly, remaining just out of reach. No matter where one stands, the source cannot be found. What unsettles most visitors is the sensation that accompanies the sound. The bridge begins to feel crowded. Not physically obstructed, but occupied. Space feels limited, as if too many people are standing close together, even though no one can be seen. Personal boundaries feel compressed, and movement becomes cautious. Some describe the sensation as walking through an invisible gathering. Others compare it to standing in a room moments after everyone has left, when warmth and presence still linger. The impression is not hostile, but it is intense, leaving visitors unsure where to step or how to move. The bridge never appears visually altered. There are no shapes, no shadows forming into figures. Yet the sense of company persists, following visitors from one side of the bridge to the other. The sounds never last long. Laughter fades first, followed by the soft murmur of voices. Silence returns suddenly, leaving behind a strange emptiness that feels heavier than before. The bridge feels vast again, its stone surface open and exposed. Those who cross late in the evening often report that the feeling of crowding peaks near the center of the bridge. Standing there, some feel surrounded, as if people are standing shoulder to shoulder nearby. Breathing becomes more deliberate. Awareness sharpens. Then, just as abruptly, the sensation releases. Looking back after leaving the bridge, visitors often feel confused. The place appears ordinary once more. The creek flows. Trees sway lightly. The stone arch sits quietly in place. It becomes difficult to reconcile the intense experience with the calm image before them. The bridge stands near land that once supported daily life. Old homes, paths, and gathering places existed nearby, long before modern roads reshaped the area. People crossed this bridge not only to travel, but to meet, to share news, to return home. Laughter and conversation once belonged naturally to this space. Yet the bridge remained, holding the imprint of countless moments of connection. Some believe those moments never fully left, settling into the stone and surrounding air. What makes Catoctin Creek Stone Bridge unusual is the emotional quality of the experience. There is no fear at first, no threat or alarm. Instead, there is familiarity. The sounds evoke community rather than danger. The discomfort arises from absence, from hearing something that should be accompanied by people who are no longer there. Those who experience the phenomenon often feel reflective afterward. The bridge leaves them thoughtful rather than shaken. The sense of being surrounded by unseen company lingers quietly, resurfacing in memory long after the visit ends. Few choose to stay on the bridge after full darkness arrives. Without light, the sense of crowding intensifies, and the laughter feels closer. Even then, no one is ever found nearby. The bridge remains visually empty, offering no explanation. By daylight, the bridge feels lighter. Sun and sound return balance to the space. The visitors may question what they heard the night before, wondering whether imagination filled the silence. Yet those who have stood there during the quiet hours remember clearly. The laughter. The voices. The unmistakable sense of presence. These memories surface unexpectedly, tied to the bridge itself. Though empty to the eye, the bridge feels full to those who listen. Here, the past does not appear in form or shadow. It arrives as sound and sensation, filling the space briefly before fading away. The bridge remains, quiet and unchanged, feeling crowded despite being empty. And reminding those who cross that some places never truly forget the people who once gathered there. Antietam iron and stone crossing stands where strength was layered upon strength. Stone arches rise from the ground, carrying iron above them, a union of weight and purpose shaped to endure. By day, the crossing appears firm and composed. Sunlight slides along the iron lines and warms the stone, and the structure feels like a patient landmark holding its place between banks and time. By day, the crossing appears firm and composed. The land around it is quiet, shaped by years of passing seasons. Grass bends gently in the breeze, and the water beneath the arches moves with a steady rhythm. In daylight, there is little to suggest unease. The crossing feels functional, solid, and calm, a reminder of engineering meant to last. As evening approaches, the atmosphere begins to change. Shadows lengthen beneath the arches, deepening into pockets where light hesitates. The iron above cools quickly as the sun fades. The air near the crossing grows noticeably heavier. Sounds carry farther now. A footstep echoes longer than expected. The crossing seems to gather the quiet around it. Night settles fully, and the structure takes on a different presence. The stone arches feel taller. The iron above feels closer. The space beneath the crossing darkens into a single mass of shadow, interrupted only by faint reflections on water and metal. It is during these hours that visitors report the most unsettling experiences. From the distance comes a sound that does not belong to the present. The steady rhythm of marching boots. The noise is measured and consistent, striking the ground with unified purpose. The echo echoes along the stone and iron, moving across the crossing as if a formation is passing overhead. Each step lands with intention, neither rushed nor hesitant. The noise is measured and consistent, striking the ground with unified purpose. The steady rhythm of marching boots. Those who hear the marching often stop in place, listening closely. The sound grows clearer for a moment, then begins to fade. When they look toward the crossing, there is no movement. The iron remains still. The stone lies undisturbed. Yet the echo lingers, replaying in the mind even after the sound has vanished. The marching does not arrive alone. Beneath the bridge, shadows begin to move in ways that feel deliberate. They stretch and shift along the stone arches, sliding together and separating again as if following an unseen pattern. When watched directly, they seem to lose cohesion, blending back into the natural darkness beneath the arches. But when observed indirectly, from the corner of vision, their movement feels undeniable. These shapes never fully define themselves. They remain impressions, outlines without detail. The air around the crossing grows dense during these moments. Breathing feels heavier, as though the space itself resists movement. Even standing still requires effort. Visitors often describe a pressure in the chest, a subtle tightening that makes each breath more noticeable. This unease does not feel sudden. It builds gradually, layer by layer, mirroring the structure itself. Stone supports iron. Iron supports passage. Memory supports atmosphere. The weight of what once moved here seems to settle into the air, pressing downward without visible force. Those who remain near the crossing at night often feel watched. Not by a single presence, but by many. The sensation comes from all directions at once, as if the land itself is aware of observation. The water beneath the arches reflects less light now, appearing darker than the surrounding night. Ripples distort reflections into fleeting shapes that vanish before they can be studied. Watching the water too long can feel disorienting, as though depth and distance lose their meaning beneath the crossing. Local history speaks of movement and conflict passing through this region, of groups traveling with purpose across stone and iron. Over time, those moments became stories, then memory. But memory does not always fade evenly. Some places hold on to it more tightly than others. The sounds of marching do not feel random. They feel procedural, as if a route is still being followed long after the original travelers are gone. The shadows beneath the arches echo that same order, assembling briefly before dissolving back into darkness. Visitors often find themselves holding their breath during these moments, listening for the next sound. When the marching stops, the silence that follows feels unnatural. It is too complete, too abrupt. Even the wind seems to pause, as if waiting for something to resume. The urge to leave arrives quietly but firmly. Many step back from the crossing without speaking, guided by instinct rather than fear. Each step away lightens the air slightly. Breathing becomes easier. The pressure begins to lift. Looking back from a distance, the crossing appears unchanged. The iron rests on stone as it always has. The arches frame only shadow and water. There is no sign of movement, no sound of boots or shifting shapes. By morning, the crossing returns fully to its daytime calm. Sunlight fills the space beneath the arches. The iron gleams faintly. The air feels ordinary again. To a casual observer, there is nothing unsettling about the structure at all. Yet those who have stood there at night remember the difference. They remember the echo of boots striking in unison. The shadows moving with purpose beneath the stone. The heaviness that settled into the air. And refused to lift until distance was made. Antietam iron and stone crossing remains where it has always been. A union of material and memory. It carries the weight of what passed through it. Releasing fragments of sound and motion when the world grows quiet enough to listen. The crossing does not announce its past. It does not demand attention. It simply endures, allowing echoes of movement and unease to surface when darkness falls, reminding those who linger that some paths are never fully left behind. Jones Falls stone bridge stands woven into the rhythm of the city. Its weathered arch carrying traffic and footsteps above a narrow stream that winds through concrete and shadow. By day, the bridge feels practical and familiar. The stonework blends into the urban landscape, another piece of infrastructure doing its quiet work. Sunlight reaches the bridge in fragments, reflecting off nearby buildings and glinting along the water below. Voices, engines, distant music, and the constant movement of life fill the air. The bridge remains the same, but the atmosphere shifts. Traffic thins. Shops close. The stream beneath the bridge darkens, its surface catching reflections from above in broken patterns. The bridge remains the same, but the atmosphere shifts. After nightfall, the area around Jones Falls stone bridge grows quieter. The sounds of the city pull back, leaving pockets of stillness beneath the arch. Footsteps echo more clearly now, bouncing off stone and water. Even small movements feel amplified in the reduced noise. It is during these hours that people report hearing footsteps running behind them. The sound is sudden and urgent, as if someone is moving quickly to close the distance. Those who hear it often feel a surge of alarm, instinctively quickening their pace. Turning around reveals nothing. The walkway stretches empty, illuminated by streetlights that show every corner clearly. No figure retreats. No shadow moves away. The footsteps stop the moment attention is given to them, leaving silence that feels too complete. Moments later, the running resumes, just behind them once more. The experience creates a growing tension, a sense of being pursued without a pursuer. Others break into a run, driven by instinct rather than reason. The sound does not change. It neither gains nor loses ground. It simply follows, suspended at the same distance. Until it fades on its own, leaving the listener alone with a racing heart and unanswered questions. Alongside these footsteps come other unsettling sounds. Beneath the arch of the bridge, where stone meets darkness, people report hearing breathing. The sound rises slowly from below, deep and steady, carrying through the damp air beneath the structure. It does not echo like water or wind. It feels close, deliberate, and alive. The breathing is most often heard when standing still. Those who pause beneath the bridge describe feeling the sound rather than simply hearing it. The rhythm seems to match the enclosed space, filling the archway and pressing against the senses. Leaning over the railing reveals only dark water and stone. The stream moves quietly, reflecting faint light from above. There is no visible source for the sound. When people call out or shift their position, the breathing stops instantly, leaving an abrupt silence. Moments later, it may return, softer and slower, as if testing whether it has been noticed. The effect is deeply unsettling. The bridge feels less like a structure and more like a presence, responding to attention in subtle ways. Despite these experiences, no one is ever caught. The running footsteps never reveal a figure. The breathing never produces a source. Security cameras and casual observation show nothing unusual. The bridge remains visually empty, even when the sounds feel undeniably real. The city offers no hiding places, yet something seems to move unseen. People who frequent the area begin to alter their routines. Some avoid walking beneath the bridge at night. Others cross quickly, staying in well-lit areas until they are clear of the arch. Conversations about the bridge circulate quietly, shared as personal experiences rather than public warnings. The structure itself seems unchanged by these stories. The stone arch stands firm, absorbing sound and shadow. Water continues to flow beneath it, carrying debris and reflections downstream. The bridge does not appear damaged or neglected. It simply exists, holding its place in the city. The urban setting adds to the tension. Streetlights glow above, traffic hums in the distance, and buildings loom nearby. Normal life continues just steps away from where people feel most unsettled. The closeness of safety and unease creates a strange contrast. Those who linger beneath the bridge late at night describe a heightened awareness. Every sound feels significant. Every movement draws attention. The air feels heavier, as though the space beneath the arch compresses perception. Some report a strong urge to leave without fully understanding why. Others feel compelled to test the experience, returning on different nights to see if it happens again. The footsteps return. The breathing rises from below. The pattern remains consistent, yet unpredictable in timing. By early morning, the bridge returns to its daytime character. The sounds vanish. The air feels lighter. Pedestrians pass without incident. The stonework looks harmless and familiar once more. Those who experienced the bridge at night often question themselves in daylight. The absence of evidence makes memory feel fragile. Yet the emotional impact remains clear. The sensation of being followed. The sound of breathing in the dark. The certainty that something was there. Jones Falls Stone Bridge continues to serve its purpose, carrying the city forward without pause. By day, it is part of the landscape. By night, it becomes something else entirely. It does not trap. It does not chase. It simply allows these moments to unfold, leaving no trace behind. For those who walk beneath its arch after dark and hear the sudden rush of footsteps behind them, the bridge leaves a lasting impression. A reminder that even in the heart of the city, some places slip beyond understanding. And as the stream flows quietly beneath the stone, carrying reflections of lights and shadows, Jones Falls Stone Bridge remains where it has always been, urban by day, unsettling by night, holding its secrets just out of reach. Rock Creek Stone Bridge rests quietly beneath a canopy of thick trees, its stonework darkened by age and shadow. The forest presses close on all sides, branches arching overhead and blocking much of the sky. During the day, sunlight filters through leaves in broken patterns, and the bridge feels like a hidden passage known only to those who seek it out. The creek below moves gently, its surface broken by rocks and roots. Water slides under the arches with a steady sound that blends easily into the forest. Birds call from the trees, and the air feels cool and damp, carrying the scent of moss and earth. In daylight, the bridge seems calm and grounded, another quiet feature of the landscape. As evening approaches, the forest grows denser. Light fades unevenly beneath the trees, and shadows settle early along the path leading to the bridge. The stone surface cools quickly, and the sound of the creek becomes more pronounced. Visitors often slow their steps here, aware that the atmosphere has shifted in subtle but noticeable ways. After sunset, the bridge feels different. Darkness fills the space beneath the arches, turning the creek into a black ribbon that reflects only fragments of light. It is during these hours that the first unusual signs appear. Small lights flicker beneath the stone arches, faint and unsteady, appearing just above the waterline. The lights do not behave like reflections. They glow softly, then dim, moving slightly before disappearing altogether. Some describe them as pale orbs, others as brief flashes, like distant lanterns seen through fog. They never rise above the arches or travel far from the water. They remain low, close to the creek, as if bound to it. When people stop to watch, the lights often fade. Darkness returns quickly, leaving behind only the sound of flowing water. Voices follow soon after. Whispers drift through the darkness, soft and indistinct. The voices seem urgent, cautionary, as if offering warnings meant to be heard but not fully understood. The whispers do not shout. They rise just enough to catch attention, then fall back into silence. Some hear fragments of sound that feel directed, as though spoken to a specific listener. Others describe a chorus of overlapping murmurs, blending together until meaning dissolves. Those who hear the whispers often pause mid-step. A sudden stillness settles in, and the forest seems to lean closer. The sound of the creek grows louder, filling the spaces where the voices were. When people try to listen more closely, the whispers fade, replaced by a silence that feels heavier than before. The bridge itself feels watchful. Standing at the entrance, many describe a sense of hesitation they cannot explain. The stone surface stretches ahead, disappearing into shadow beneath the trees. The far side of the bridge feels distant, harder to judge than it should be. Lights beneath the arches may flicker again. This time, they appear closer together, moving in brief patterns before vanishing. The water below reflects nothing unusual, offering no explanation. The creek continues to flow as it always has, indifferent to what appears above it. The warnings in the whispers linger in the mind. Though the words are unclear, the message feels direct. Something about crossing feels wrong, as if the bridge is marking a boundary rather than a path. Many feel an urge to turn back, strong and immediate, even when curiosity pushes them forward. Each footfall feels heavier, as if the stone resists movement. The air grows cooler, pressing against skin with unexpected intensity. The forest seems quieter now, birds and insects absent, leaving only water and breath. Some turn back before reaching the center. They describe relief as soon as distance grows between them and the arches. The whispers fade completely, and the lights do not return. The forest resumes its normal sounds. And the path feels familiar again. Others stop midway and look back. From that position, the entrance appears closer than expected. While the far end of the bridge feels farther away. The stone beneath their feet seems unchanged, yet perception feels altered, stretched and uncertain. Rock Creek Stone Bridge has stood here for generations. People crossed it during times when the forest was thicker and paths were fewer. It offered passage over water that could be difficult or dangerous at certain times of year. Over time, the bridge absorbed countless crossings, each carrying intention, urgency, or hesitation. Some believe the lights are echoes of those journeys. The whispers, according to local belief, are not meant to frighten but to caution, repeating a warning that once mattered deeply. Others believe the forest itself shapes the experience. Dense trees block sound and light, creating illusions of movement and voice. Shadows shift easily, and water reflects unpredictably. Yet this explanation does not fully account for how consistently people feel compelled to turn back. The bridge does not chase or threaten. It does not force retreat. The warnings are subtle. The lights are brief. The decision to cross or return remains with the visitor. Many choose to leave without fully crossing. They walk away with a lingering sense of unease, glancing back once or twice before the bridge disappears into shadow. The experience stays with them, replaying in memory during quiet moments. By morning, the bridge looks unchanged. Sunlight breaks through the trees, illuminating stone and water. There are no lights beneath the arches. No whispers in the air. The creek flows gently. And the forest feels welcoming again. Yet those who visited after dark remember. They recall the flickering lights, the warning voices, the moment when crossing felt like a mistake waiting to happen. Rock Creek Stone Bridge remains where it has always been. Surrounded by thick trees, steady and silent. By night, lights may flicker beneath its arches, and voices may whisper from the dark. Many will turn back before crossing fully, guided by instinct rather than understanding. And when the forest closes in and the path grows quiet, the bridge will wait, holding its warnings in stone and shadow, revealed only to those who arrive when the light begins to fade. Boonesboro Stone Bridge rises from the land with quiet endurance, its weathered stones fitted together by hands long gone. Moss clings to the edges, and the surface bears the marks of countless crossings. Though age has softened its lines, the bridge stands strong, holding its shape against time, water, and weather. By day, the bridge appears calm and unassuming. Sunlight warms the stone, and shadows settle gently into the cracks. The surrounding area feels peaceful, shaped by slow movement and routine passage. Visitors often pause here, drawn by the sense that this place has seen far more than it reveals. As evening approaches, the atmosphere begins to change. Light fades unevenly across the stone, and the bridge feels longer than it did moments before. Sounds from the surrounding land soften, leaving behind a growing stillness. The bridge seems to separate itself from its surroundings, becoming a space apart rather than a simple crossing. Stepping onto the stone surface can bring an immediate physical reaction. Some visitors feel sudden pressure in their chests, a tightening that arrives without warning. Breathing becomes more deliberate, as though the air itself has thickened. The sensation is not painful, but it is intense enough to demand attention. For some, it is brief and passes quickly. For others, it lingers, growing stronger the farther they walk across the bridge. Stepping off the stone brings relief almost instantly, reinforcing the sense that the reaction is tied to the bridge itself. Standing still on the bridge can make the sensation more noticeable. The chest feels heavy, as if weight has been added without explanation. Moving forward or backward does not always help. The pressure seems anchored to the space, responding to presence rather than position. Footsteps echo loudly across the stone, even when walking slowly. Each step produces a sharp sound that carries farther than expected. The echoes bounce along the length of the bridge, repeating again and again. The sound feels stretched, elongated, as though the stone refuses to let it fade. What unsettles many visitors is that the echo never seems to reach an end. No matter how far they walk, the sound continues behind them, repeating at the same distance. It does not diminish as it should. Instead, it follows, steady and persistent. Pausing does not always stop the echo. Some report hearing the sound continue for a moment even after standing still, as though the bridge itself is replaying the movement. The repetition creates the illusion of motion where none exists, blurring the line between sound and memory. Walking faster does not shorten the echo. The rhythm remains unchanged, step after step, as if the sound is no longer connected to the person walking. The bridge seems to hold on to it, carrying it forward endlessly. The longer one remains on the bridge, the stronger the sense of unease becomes. The pressure in the chest may return or intensify. Breathing feels shallow. The bridge feels less like a structure and more like a corridor with no clear exit. Some visitors describe the sensation of being suspended in time. The landscape at either end of the bridge feels distant, harder to reach than it should be. Looking ahead does not bring reassurance. Looking back offers no comfort either. The stone beneath feels steady, yet the experience feels unstable. Sound behaves strangely here. The surrounding environment seems muted, as though the bridge absorbs noise from beyond its edges. Wind may move through nearby trees, but it feels far away. The echo of footsteps becomes the dominant sound, filling the space completely. Locals familiar with Boonesborough Stone Bridge speak of it with respect rather than fear. They acknowledge its age and strength, but also its presence. Stories are shared quietly, often without detail, focusing more on how the bridge feels than on what happens there. Some believe the bridge holds echoes of the past, impressions left by repeated crossings over generations. Footsteps layered upon footsteps, never fully fading. The stone may have absorbed the rhythm of movement, replaying it endlessly to those who pass. Others suggest physical explanations. Stone reflects sound differently. Narrow spaces can amplify echoes. Yet they do not fully explain why the experience feels so consistent and so specific to this bridge. Visitors with no prior knowledge describe the same sensations. The sudden chest pressure. The endless echo. The feeling that the sound never reaches a conclusion. These similarities appear again and again, shared by people who arrived with no expectations. Standing near the center of the bridge often feels most intense. The echoes overlap. The pressure feels heavier. The pressure feels heavier. The desire to leave grows strong, not from panic, but from discomfort that feels deeply rooted. The desire to leave grows strong, not from panic, but from discomfort that feels deeply rooted. The bridge does not feel dangerous. It feels demanding. Leaving the bridge brings gradual relief. The pressure fades. The echoes finally stop. The surrounding sounds return, grounding the experience in familiar reality. Looking back, the bridge appears unchanged, solid and quiet, offering no sign of what was just felt. Yet the memory remains vivid. The endless echo lingers in the mind. The chest tightness resurfaces briefly in recollection. The experience feels difficult to describe. As though words cannot fully capture the sensation of being held in a space that refuses to release sound. Boonesborough Stone Bridge continues to stand strong, unchanged by the reactions it provokes. It does not warn or threaten. It simply exists, carrying weight, sound, and time within its stone. For those who cross it, the bridge becomes more than a passage. It becomes an experience shaped by sensation rather than sight. The echo that never ends. The pressure that arrives without reason. The feeling that the bridge is not finished with you until you leave its span. Old and weathered, Boonesborough Stone Bridge remains a place where movement does not behave as expected, and where sound feels trapped in an endless loop. Old Seneca Stone Bridge stretches across the water with a presence that feels far older than the land around it. Its stones are darkened by time, fitted together with a patience that suggests generations of hands and careful intent. Even in daylight, the bridge feels watchful, as if it has observed countless crossings and remembers each one. The road leading to it is quiet, and the surrounding landscape seems to slow as visitors draw near. By day, the bridge appears solid and unmoving. Sunlight glances off its curved surface, highlighting worn edges and shallow grooves carved by years of travel. The water below flows steadily, reflecting sky and shadow in equal measure. Yet many who approach describe a subtle tension, a sense that the bridge is aware of being observed. Stepping onto the stone brings a change in atmosphere. The air feels cooler, denser, as if the space above the water holds its own temperature. Footsteps echo softly, sounding closer than expected. The bridge feels longer than it looks, the center slightly farther away than anticipated, drawing attention toward the heart of the crossing. As evening approaches, the mood deepens. Shadows stretch along the stone, settling into the grooves and curves. The surrounding area grows quiet, and the bridge becomes the most prominent feature in the landscape. After nightfall, the bridge takes on a different character entirely. The world around it seems to recede, leaving the stone span isolated beneath the sky. The silence becomes deliberate, pressing in from all sides. It is during these hours that the most unsettling reports begin. Some visitors claim to see a full figure standing at the center of the bridge. The figure appears upright and still, positioned exactly where the stone curves highest above the water. It does not flicker or blur. Clothing details are unclear, but the outline is firm, framed by darkness and faint light. Those who see it often stop immediately, hearts racing, unsure whether to call out or remain silent. The figure does not respond. It does not turn or acknowledge those who notice it. The stillness is absolute, almost deliberate, as if movement is unnecessary. The longer it is watched, the stronger the sense of being observed becomes. When visitors gather the courage to approach, the figure does not retreat. It remains fixed until the moment the watcher looks away or takes a step forward. Then, without warning, it is gone. The center of the bridge is empty, revealed as nothing more than stone and shadow. Approaching the spot where the figure stood brings no answers. The air feels heavy, charged with a lingering presence. Some describe a pressure in the chest, others a sudden chill that runs through the body. The bridge itself offers no sign that anything unusual occurred. Looking back from the center, visitors often expect to see the figure reappear. It never does. The bridge stretches empty in both directions, quiet and unchanged. Yet the sense of fear remains, sharp and immediate, refusing to fade. Those who linger report an overwhelming urge to leave. The feeling is not panic, but insistence, as though the bridge itself is urging departure. Steps quicken. Breathing becomes shallow. The silence feels louder with every moment spent standing there. The figure is never seen moving. It does not walk away or dissolve slowly. It simply vanishes, leaving behind a profound absence. This lack of resolution unsettles those who witness it more than any sudden action could. Stories shared by different visitors align with remarkable consistency. The figure always appears at the center. It always stands still. It always disappears when approached. The fear that follows is always described as lingering, long after leaving the bridge behind. The history of Old Seneca Stone Bridge stretches far into the past. Long before modern travel, this crossing connected communities, carrying people, goods, and stories across the water. Some believe the figure is not a single presence, but a reflection of watchfulness itself. The bridge was built to endure, to stand firm while everything else changed. Over time, that role may have taken shape in ways that cannot be easily explained. Others suggest the figure represents moments of hesitation that once occurred here. A pause before crossing. A decision weighed at the center of the bridge. Fear, anticipation, or resolve held briefly before moving on. These moments may have settled into the stone, repeating themselves when conditions are right. What makes the experience especially unsettling is the silence. There are no sounds accompanying the figure. No footsteps, no breath, no movement. The absence of noise intensifies the encounter, leaving nothing to distract from the sight itself. After leaving the bridge, many visitors find the fear follows them. The image of the still figure returns unexpectedly, often in quiet moments. The memory feels vivid, anchored to the bridge and its darkened center. By morning, old Seneca stone bridge appears unchanged. Sunlight returns warmth to the stone, and the water below sparkles gently. The road feels ordinary again. It becomes tempting to dismiss the stories as imagination shaped by darkness. Yet those who have seen the figure know otherwise. The memory does not fade with daylight. It remains precise, fixed in place, just like the figure itself. Old Seneca stone bridge continues to stand, ancient and watchful, spanning the water as it always has. It does not warn those who approach. It simply waits. At night, when the world grows quiet and the bridge is left alone beneath the stars, the center of the span may become occupied once more. A full figure stands, unmoving, observing all who dare to cross. And when someone approaches, the bridge is empty again. But the fear remains, lingering in the silence, reminding visitors that some places are not meant to be understood, only remembered. Thank you for crossing the haunted stone arch bridges of Maryland with me tonight. These bridges were built to connect places, but some connections go far deeper than roads and rivers. Stone remembers every step. Every fall. Every life that passed too soon. If you ever find yourself crossing an old stone bridge after dark, pause for a moment. Listen closely. The echoes you hear may not belong to you. Would you dare cross one of these bridges alone at night, knowing something might be waiting beneath the arch, or would you choose another path and never look back? Rest well, my friend. Until our next haunted journey.